Hi boys and girls. Before we start, I want you to grab a partner if there's one available. So go ahead and pause and see if you can find yourself a buddy. Okay, so now you should be with your buddy. If you couldn't find one, that'll be okay too. Just make sure that you still pause and think about the questions I ask you. So our learning goal is I can use pictures or illustrations in a text to learn more information. I can explain the process of entering America after getting off the ship at Ellis Island, and I can describe what life was like for new immigrants in America. So we're going to look at what happens once the immigrants get off the ships and they come to America. So if I look at this page, before I even start reading, I can learn a lot from my pictures. So right here, I can figure out where they are. So using that picture clue, where do you think they are? Did you say New York City? I agree, because I know the Statue of Liberty is in New York City. What about this girl right here? Do you think she looks happy, sad, scared, nervous? She looks happy. She has a smile on her face. So when I read this page, it says, as big passenger ships entered New York Harbor, hey, look at that, the immigrants caught their first glimpse of what they hoped would be their new country. They saw the Statue of Liberty, a welcome and inspiring sight. The travelers were relieved that their journey was over, but they worried about what awaited them on Ellis Island. So they're relieved, they're excited to be there. So this tricky word relieved, I know it probably has to be a pretty good word because she looks like she's happy. I do know that they are a little worried about what happens on Ellis Island, but they're just glad to be there. So on this page, this looks like a photograph and this is more of a drawing. So I can use these picture clues to help me too. If I look at this picture, I'm not quite sure what's going on here. But look at that. There is a caption that says immigrants were crowded onto boats going to America. So I know that this is a picture of them still on the boat. And then just like in the book we just saw, I can see in this picture that they have just arrived in, that's right, New York City, or America. Our first stop was Ellis Island in New York. 2 doctors checked our health. Ellis Island was the entering station for immigrants coming to America. So you can see them carrying their luggage. So this is all they got to bring with them, whatever they could carry here. And they're entering. Before they could enter, though, you can see the doctor here checking their health. So inspectors from the island boarded the ships at anchor to check the passengers. Wealthy passengers traveling first class were usually allowed to leave the ship right away. So if they're wealthy and in first class, what do you think that means? Tell your partner. It means that they had a lot of money. Yeah. So those inspectors looked for signs of contagious disease, among others. Those who were ill sometimes stayed aboard the ship or were sent to other islands to recover. Those who seemed well were taken to Ellis Island. Go ahead and pause this one more time. What do you think the word recover means? Tell your partner. Yeah, they sent them to other places to recover. They wanted them to get better, so that way when they came to America, they didn't get everybody else sick. So if you look at this picture, what do you think? Do you think that Ellis Island was a crowded place? Do you think it was busy? Do you think not many people came? Tell your partner. It looks pretty busy to me. Look at all those boats. They're all trying to get into the harbor here, into this one, or into this docking area. So they all have to wait their turn. Tons of people arrived there. What about this picture? These people are standing. They're off their boat and they're where? That American flag tells me they're in America. I think you're right. First, the immigrants were given a quick examination by doctors. Look at the picture and point to where you can see a doctor. You find him? Right here, right? So if we look at the next picture, so they've gotten examined by doctors. Do you think that these people got a good report from the doctor? Tell your partner why you think they did or did not. Do you see that they're very upset and they're crying and this person has their head down right here? Probably sad. So they probably didn't get a good report. I didn't have to read the text to figure that one out. I just used my picture clues. But then these people down here, they're carrying their luggage, they have smiles on their faces. Do you think they got in America? I think they did, because they look happy. And if I check my text here, it says sometimes immigrants had permanent health problems that would make it hard for them to work. This often meant they would be sent back to their native country. So that's what's going on in this picture. But most new arrivals passed the inspection and moved on to the next step. So they're happy. So here's just another page. This shows a photograph of people being examined. And here's another photograph. It says Mama and Papa had to take reading tests. So not only did they have health tests, but they had to have reading tests. And then in this caption here it says, if immigrants failed the test, they could not enter the United States of America. So I see this fence here, and that's showing me in my picture clue that they're not able to come in the country. So now immigrants were asked a long list of questions. Inspectors asked their names, where they were from, how much money they had. But look at her face. How do you think she feels about all of this? Tell your partner. She's nervous. And in the text it says, since most of the immigrants did not speak English, they needed help understanding and answering the questions. So translators did what they could do to try to help the newcomers. But they had a hard time understanding each other, so that was probably very stressful. Even though it was difficult, most managed to answer the questions. Take a look at this picture. Do you think these people look nervous, happy, relieved? They look like they're probably pretty happy. They probably passed the test and they were able to enter the new country. And it says here, when they received their entry cards, at last, the immigrants could officially enter the new country. They had papers. So here's a photograph of them getting their papers, and the papers say that they could live here. So after they go through all of those tests at Ellis Island, then either they're sent away or they get their papers so they can move to America. So now they're here in America and they have to make a new life for themselves. And the text says all newcomers to America have a hard time at first. This is true whether they came in the 1600s or have just arrived. It isn't easy to start a new life in an unfamiliar country. Most immigrants had to learn a new language and a new way of life. The jobs they must take are often hard with long hours. Sadly, new arrivals are often poorly treated by other Americans just because they look or act differently. So you can see here, look at this guy's face right here. How do you think he feels? I don't think he's happy about new people in the country. And look at this woman here. Do you think she has an easy life in America? No. It looks like she probably had to take any job she could get. She could have even been a doctor or a teacher or somebody in another country, but they're not going to let her have that job here. So she has to take a harder job. And then over here, you can see all kinds of different people, but do they look upset with each other? No, they look like they're happy and they're comfortable. And in the text it says, as they have in the past, immigrants often group together in small neighborhoods. It helps to make them feel more at home in a strange new country. So they make their lives better by finding friends. Many immigrants stayed in large cities because they could find jobs there. Papa found a job in a meat market in New York City, so he stayed right where Ellis Island is. Take a look at this picture. Do you think this looks like a large city or a small town? I think you're right, and if I look at my caption right here, it says New York grew into a bustling city as more immigrants moved to America. Bustling city? Tell your partner, what do you think that means? I think it probably means busy or crowded or a happening type of place, because in the picture it's busy, crowded, and there's a lot going on. Like most immigrants, we came to America for freedom and opportunities. We wanted to make a better life. Here's another example of jobs that people took in America. It says in my caption, some immigrant woman earned a living by typing. So in this picture here, I can see this says Ellis Island Souvenir Guide. I know when I travel, sometimes I get souvenirs or things from the place I visited. So now it says Ellis Island was closed down because a lot of people did their health inspections in their own country before they even came to America. So Ellis Island is no longer busy. In 1954, it was closed. And then in 1990, Ellis Island was reopened as a museum. So that's why this picture clue shows a souvenir guide. So you can actually go visit today and see what it was like. Today, what do you think this place is? It says international arrivals. Everyone's hugging. They're running around. This guy is pushing luggage. There's people from all over the place. Tell your partner. It looks now familiar to me. It looks like an airport, right? It says today immigrants are no longer arrive by ship. Instead, they fly into many international airports in the United States. They didn't have those back in the 1800s. Coming to America has been exciting. There is so much to see and do. And then look at these people in this picture. Do they look the same to you? No, they look quite different, don't they? The caption says, the United States of America is called a melting pot because immigrants came here from so many different countries. So a melting pot is like a mixture of all kinds of different things. So America is a mixture of all kinds of different people, and that's why they call it a melting pot. So we learned how to use pictures and illustrations to help us learn more information. So in the Coming to America book, sometimes the words are a little tricky, but I can use picture clues to really help me understand more about how immigrants came to America and what life was like once they passed through Ellis Island. So when you're reading this week, I want you to make sure you look at the picture clues as well as the words, because sometimes pictures tell you things that words don't. Great job, guys!